The First Lady zigs while everyone else zags, striking an emphatic tone about coronavirus during the second night of the RNC. Hurricane Laura is getting bigger and more dangerous by the hour. And pumpkin spice is back, which can only mean one thing: fall is around the corner. Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Wednesday, August 26th. I am Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Hey, Carlo.
Hey, Jill. It sure doesn't feel like fall's around the corner. It's about 95 degrees here in New York. We talked yesterday about is New York City dead? Was that yesterday?
I think so, yeah.
So I went to Manhattan yesterday. I've been before in the last few months, but this is the first time I really spent some real time in the city. Man, it is bleak. I gotta say, where I was down in Union Square, which is a big business and commercial area. Something like every third business is boarded up, and not like it's not like there's a sign in the window like, hey, we'll be back soon. I'm talking like boarded up. Like these places are not coming back, at least anytime soon. It's really, I hate to start on such a dour note, but it was really shocking, I have to say.
Well, the argument against, so the reason we were talking about, is New York City dead, was because of Jerry Seinfeld's op-ed, or his letter to the editor in the New York Times responding to an article that claimed New York City was dead,
Right.
or an op-ed that claimed it. So, and the argument against Seinfeld is, look, it's all fine and good to say you're going to come back, which Seinfeld admitted in his piece, like he's on Long Island right now, but he's coming back. Is that the New York City you're going to come back to is going to be quite different, and New York City needs you now. So if you are going to come back, you should do it, and you should start spending a little bit of money at these businesses, or else when you come back, they're not going to be there.
Yeah, good point.
Okay. Now let's get to some news, shall we? Somebody, though, has compared New York City, in fairness, though, by the way, in August is always sort of kind of dead. Like it's always pretty quiet.
This is different, though. I mean, to walk down Fifth Avenue and see, flagship stores that are just plywooded up is really scary, I gotta say.
Okay, let's get to the news again. Last
Please.
night at the Republican National Convention, First Lady Melania Trump delivered a primetime speech in which she praised her husband's, quote, total honesty and expressed sympathy for the victims of the coronavirus. So she's one of the rare speakers to address this pandemic head on. In a speech aimed at appealing to women, the First Lady struck an emphatic tone on both the pandemic and also race relations, two areas in which Trump is rated poorly, especially among female voters.
I thought that she was effective, Melania. I think the whole thing violated the Hatch Act. Again, nobody cares. You still got to mention it. But back to the strategy here. I mean, I think that I was thinking about this yesterday. There's a lot of preening going on among some liberal circles. I think at least some that I am sort of attuned to. About how Biden's going to win. This is he's got this in the bag. Anybody who thinks that this is Biden's race to lose is not paying attention. This thing is going to go down to the wire. It's going to tighten to 4 or 5 points, I think, in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be close, and it's going to be messy with the mail-in voting and just with us not knowing, I think, what's going to happen when we go to bed on election night. I think a lot of people forget that, President Trump, he fights best when he's backed into a corner. And we saw that in 2016. And I think we're going to see it again this year. One of the reasons why I think this is, the president has been using the stock market as the stand-in for the economy, which anybody who listens to us, Jill, knows is BS, right? The stock market is not the economy. But, nobody is really pushing back on that. And that's going to help him. The fact that the stock market right now is higher than it was in February and March is not nothing. And, that's going to give a lot of people on the fence, the nudge to vote for Trump, I think.
I've said for a while that I think this is going to be super close. And sure. I think to 100% agree that for everybody who thinks that Biden's already got this in the bag, I think that is just not correct. And just, again, similar to what happened the last time around, completely out of touch with a lot of America. Okay, the RNC though has been giving a platform to some speakers who are really considered on the fringe of the political spectrum. So there was an anti-abortion activist who spoke last night. She's also espoused the idea that each household gets one vote. So if the husband and the wife disagree, the wife defers to her husband. I guess she hasn't heard about happy wife, happy life. That's kind of the rule we follow in this house.
Oh my Lord. I didn't even know that. What even is that? One household, one vote?
It's like a household vote.
Okay.
Also, right before the convention last night really kicked off, the RNC actually had to pull one of the pre-recorded speeches from another person who had promoted a post from a QAnon member all about mostly espousing anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. And of course, the president himself has actually praised QAnon and not, at the very least, not distanced himself from the group. So the question is whether anybody cares. I think in terms of if they vote, but I think why it matters is because there's really not a place for that in exactly. America in 2020. So whether or not Trump wins or Biden wins, that's just not okay. So
I agree,
I think that's something we should all agree on, Republican or Democrat.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I saw when I went to bed last night that the news had just broke that this woman, she was she's called an angel mom. She was the mother of I forget if her son was a police officer or not, but he was killed by an immigrant who was here illegally.
I think a drunk driving accident.
Or was it a drunk driver? Okay, right. So so she was posting on Twitter, not like years ago, like yesterday, these anti-Semitic tropes. So I was very happy to see that they booted her, from speaking, because exactly to your point, like let's just at the very least, let's not have like open anti-Semitism, at a political convention, right?
I'm glad you said that, because at first I was like, oh, what did they find a tweet from her from high school? No, it was literally yesterday.
Yeah. So, right. You can feel terrible for that woman, for losing her son, of course, but there's just no room for that. We do not need that right now. I think back to what you said about Melania, sort of giving this empathetic stance on coronavirus, which I thought was sort of like the headline from the night. Melania aside, the Republicans are really trying to pretend like COVID didn't happen. I found this really fascinating yesterday and upsetting, actually. So Senator Roy Blunt, who's a Republican senator from, I believe, Missouri, he said at a Washington Post live panel yesterday, and I'm quoting here, "Were you better in January of this year than you were 3 years ago or 4 years ago?" And almost every American, if they look at that question, would say, absolutely, we're better off. So first of all, putting aside whether or not that's true or not, what happened after January? It's like, I feel like, I'm taking crazy pills here, people. Like, a lot happened since January, right? This is sort of like the pitch that they're making about, vote for Trump because of all the crime in the cities that's going to happen under Joe Biden. Like, it's happening now, right? You can't make that argument when you're the incumbent. It's just, you don't get to cherry pick the stuff that happens on your watch. It's really, it's one of these maddening things, this election cycle, that I just wanted to throw out there, because it's really been annoying me. And this thing that Blunt said yesterday was just like, what?
Tonight, by the way, Vice President Pence gives the keynote. He's going to be at Fort McHenry in Baltimore. That's the site that inspired the Star-Spangled Banner. Other speakers include Second Lady Karen Pence, Lara Trump, and Kellyanne Conway, who will essentially be giving her exit speech, because she is, she's stepping down from her role to spend more time with her family. The other big story today, Hurricane Laura is now a Category 2 storm. It is rapidly strengthening over the Gulf of Mexico as it approaches the U.S. Landfall is expected late tonight or early tomorrow. The latest track has the storm coming ashore along the Texas-Louisiana border with winds as strong as 120 miles per hour and a 12-foot storm surge. It's forecast to reach Category 3, maybe Category 4 status, which would officially make it a major hurricane. This one could do some real damage, Carlo.
Yeah, this is looking like the real deal here. Having covered Lord knows how many hurricanes in my career. So hurricane and storm surge warnings in effect for the upper Texas and southwest Louisiana coast, basically from Galveston to intercoastal city, Louisiana. So obviously, if you're in that area, you know what to do. Because this wouldn't be your first rodeo. Conditions along the coast will deteriorate significantly today. There are mandatory evacuations in place in some of these low-lying communities. Houston residents being told to shelter in place or evacuate if they can. The satellite imagery, if you look at it, is the scary thing. The storm is really starting to get organized, which is scary. Because if you remember, that's what we saw with Katrina, right? Katrina got really big in the last 24 hours, right before landfall. That's sort of why it took everybody by surprise. And I don't mean to say that this is going to be, a Hurricane Katrina redux here, but this is a big storm, and this is a big deal that we got to pay attention to today and tomorrow for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, an update now on the situation that a lot of colleges, well into their first week or two of classes, and new clusters of coronavirus cases at colleges and universities, now raising questions about whether schools that reopened may need to shut down as classes begin. There are now 530 confirmed positives at Alabama, 160 at Mizzou, 43 at USC, and we, again, just a week or two into classes.
This is another thing that's been annoying me, and I don't mean to be so annoyed today, but one of the things that's annoying
We're
me
going to start to have to pay our listeners, because I feel like this is just a therapy session.
Okay, you're right. No, it's just the thing that about the college thing is it's like the way that we're putting as a country the onus on these kids to not get coronavirus is just really it's upsetting to me, because it's like, I mean, I just remember when I was a freshman in college, there's all of this pressure on you, right, to like have like the proverbial college experience. I don't know if other people felt this way. Maybe it was just me, but you're even if you don't want to go to a party, for instance, like you're supposed to go because that's how you meet people and that's how you get involved in Greek life or whatever. Like, so that exists even without a pandemic. So if you're like on a college campus, you're at Tuscaloosa, and you're just trying to make friends and like have a college experience, and a fraternity invites you to a party, and then you go to this party, and then you're in the media as being one of these like kids who is, unwittingly spreading coronavirus. I don't know. It just doesn't seem fair to me, to the kids. Like, the colleges opened. You can't open a college and then tell kids like, oh yeah, you can't party or you can't hang out. Like, it's just not going to happen, right?
Well, so I can go back and forth on this because, so at first that was my opinion on it. Like, kids will be kids. We're defying, we're basically setting them up to fail. And I think that that's kind of the conventional wisdom. But then the other part of me kind of feels like right now stinks for everybody. Every age group and everybody in whatever experience they're in is feeling pain in this moment in some way or another that's unique to them. Okay, whether you're a parent with young kids or have, whether you're a parent with kids who now are home all day and you have to figure out how to entertain them because there's no school, whether you're an older person who doesn't feel comfortable leaving the house. Okay, why are my first inclination was to agree with you, but college kids you're 18 to 22, right? For the most part, people are in the military at 18. The kids who stormed Normandy were 18 right. And 17. Is it so much to ask to say, look, we want to put, we're trying to have as normal of an environment as possible, just masks and don't party and follow the rules. Maybe I'm being totally naive.
No.
But it's like, so it's either like do that or you have to go home. I mean, right. So it's not like the idea of these football games and the tip frat parties, like that just can't exist right now. So it's either this kind of watered down version of college and, by the way, school and everything, right. Or it's just nothing and it's a shutdown. So I don't know. I don't know. I kind of think
I understand where you're coming from.
I think we're not. We're basically accepting that that college kids can't rise to the occasion. Why shouldn't they? Of course they can.
Yeah, I get that. I just think that it's unlikely. I just think that that's not. I think that it's. There's also something weird about the fact that colleges are basically going on as normal here, and meanwhile you've got like most schools aren't going back. Like it seems like it's almost like in reverse, right? Like I don't know if I was a parent of a 5 or 6 year old, especially in New York where the rate is so low. I don't know. I mean, they are going back to school in New York City, so I guess that doesn't really apply here. But no, I see what you're saying, Jill. I do. I do. I just remember being a college kid and like if there's a pressure to go to a party, like it's very hard. It would be very hard for me to not go.
By the way, anyone who is listening to this who knew me in college is probably rolling their eyes right now because
Yes, right.
I
Yeah,
was
same with me.
not exactly likely to follow these. But it's like I would like to think I would have followed the rules. And I'm not coming
Yeah.
from this high horse, but it's like we're all in this together, right?
Hey, Jill, it's easy to say until that cute senior knocks on your dorm room door and says,
Exactly.
"Hey, we're going to the bar tonight. Aren't you going to come?" I'm just glad I'm not in
Uh,
college anymore.
no, I know, I know. Where are we? I think we went a little bit off the rails here. Okay, researchers, by the way, pointing to a conference held by the pharmaceutical company Biogen in February that they think that may have led to 20,000 coronavirus cases in the Boston area and potentially thousands more across the U.S.
This is
Whoa.
an amazing story, Jill. I'm linking to it in the newsletter today. This would make this conference among the largest super spreader events in the world, which is, of course, is a little ironic given that it was a conference of pharmaceutical and biotech executives. But of course, it was back in February when no one was really seeing around the bend, right?
We also said what was it? The Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas was one of the first
Yep.
super spreader events. We reported that months ago. Um, but it's incredible when you go back and you look at how this thing really took hold here in this country.
It's these super spreader events. When we look back on this, that's what's going to be that's the seeds, right? These big events where it's just indoors.
Meanwhile, the city of Kenosha, Wisconsin, rocked by a third night of violent unrest. 3 people were shot last night, one fatally. What appears to be militia groups have been patrolling the streets, clashing with protesters furious over the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Blake, by the way, is paralyzed from the waist down after being shot multiple times at point blank range by Kenosha officers. That's according to his father. His parents have called for calm, saying that he would not want to see the damage being done in his name.
So Nicole, one of our listeners from the area out there near Kenosha, has been sending me updates overnight from Kenosha Police Department's Facebook page, which is essentially verifying these reports of these militias that have been patrolling the streets with assault rifles. This appears to be a different thing than the riots and the fires. I just want to kind of point that out. It looks like there wasn't as much damage last night as there was the night before in terms of like arson, which is good, but you can't have like vigilante groups patrolling the streets of an American city. Like I don't know where the governor, what's his name, Evers, the Democrat. I don't know where he is in all this, but this is a very volatile situation out there.
LeBron James spoke really passionately about the shooting of Jacob Blake. I think it was after one of the games this week, and I highly recommend listening to what he said. He just talked about his emotions right now and being a Black person in this country.
Mhm.
I much recommend.
I
I
haven't seen
highly
that. I'll check
recommend
it out. Yeah.
listening to it. Onto the business world, the airline industry has seen an uptick in travel over the past few weeks, but not out of the woods yet, even by a long shot. American Airlines now says it is planning to cut 19,000 jobs in October. That is when federal aid that kept these airlines from laying off workers is set to expire. Flight attendants will make up more than 8,000 of those jobs. United and Delta have also warned that deep cuts are coming this fall.
19,000, that's a lot. That's American basically saying they're going to have a 30% reduction of their workforce by the end of this year versus what it was at the beginning of the year, which is a lot, incredible. This is about putting pressure on Congress, right? American says the only way it can stave off these cuts is if the government extends the payroll support program, which is going to run out. Trump says he's on board with that, by the way. Congress has not come to any agreements on any part of the CARES Act. They sort of continue to fiddle while Rome burns over here.
And finally, lovers of novelty fast food and drink options, listen up. Starbucks has brought back the pumpkin spice latte earlier than ever this week, after Dunkin' launched its first ever PSL earlier this month. Meanwhile, McDonald's adding spicy chicken nuggets to the menu on September 16th, the first new McNugget variety since that item debuted in 1983. The Golden Arches will also have a Chips Ahoy McFlurry available for a limited time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I put this story in today because I want you to tell everybody your pumpkin spice latte story from yesterday.
Oh,
I believe you tried it for the first time.
I did. Okay, so basically, we reported on Cheddar that about Dunkin's pumpkin spice latte, and I told Kristen, who was my co-anchor, I said I've never actually had a pumpkin spice latte, which is true, and her reaction was just like, "What? You have to try it. It's so good." So, needless to say, this was about 2 weeks ago. Over the weekend, my inbox was flooded with people being like, "Have you seen John Oliver? Have you seen John Oliver? What is it? Last week tonight."
Yeah.
Apparently he put a montage together of all of these news people talking about pumpkin spice latte, and then our little clip was in there with really funny graphics. So I tried one on air yesterday, and it was good. It's really sweet. I don't think I could finish a full one.
Yeah, it's kind of gross, in my opinion.
I guess I'm like in the mainstream now.
But did you tweet out that the John Oliver video? Because I want people to
I did.
I want people to see it because it's so funny. Okay, go to Jill's Twitter and look at it because it cracked me up when I saw that on Monday morning.
I think it's just a reality check of how ridiculous we all are.
Yeah, no, he is very good at poking fun of us in the media, and I respect that.
Like, yeah, I'm an idiot, but it was funny.
It's very.
Okay. All right, everybody, that's what you need to know for Wednesday, August 26th.
All right, folks. See you tomorrow.